The situation around Jonathan Kuminga inside Golden State feels like it has reached a turning point that nobody can really ignore anymore. This story has gone through highs, lows, optimism, frustration, and now it sits in a place that feels tense, uncertain, and honestly fascinating to watch unfold. What makes this moment different is timing. Kuminga is now officially eligible to be moved, and once that door opens in the NBA, things tend to accelerate quickly. Front offices do not like to sit still when a decision has already been brewing behind the scenes, and everything points to the Warriors being at that stage right now. Over the next couple of days, the picture around Kuminga is going to get clearer, whether fans like what they see or not. Trades do not always happen instantly, but when a player becomes available after weeks or months of speculation, the phone calls intensify. There's a sense that Golden State has been waiting for this exact moment, not to rush into something reckless, but to finally explore options that were previously off the table. The tricky part is that this exploration comes with an uncomfortable reality. Kuminga's current market value does not appear to be where many fans once hoped it would be. That is where some of the frustration starts to creep in. Earlier in the season, the idea of trading a young, explosive forward like Kuminga felt almost unthinkable unless the return was massive. Now, after long stretches without consistent minutes and a role that never truly stabilized, the perception around the league has shifted. Interest exists, but it is cautious, conditional, and in some cases complicated by the need for multi-team constructions. That alone tells you a lot about how teams currently view his situation rather than just his talent. At first glance, that can feel discouraging. Kuminga has undeniable physical tools, flashes of dominance, and moments where he looks like a future star rather than a rotation piece. When reports suggest that teams are hesitant or that offers might not match the potential, it is natural to feel like Golden State is selling low. But this is also where the conversation becomes more nuanced, because not all interest is created equal, and sometimes one intriguing possibility can shift the entire tone of the discussion. One of the more interesting angles emerging involves Chicago. The Bulls have hovered around trade conversations for most of the season without fully committing to a direction, but they remain a team with movable pieces and a willingness to take calculated risks. From their perspective, taking a chance on a player like Kuminga makes sense. He is young, athletic, and still early enough in his career that a change of scenery could unlock something more consistent. From Golden State's side, Chicago represents a potential partner that could offer a return fitting both timeline and need. This is where Nikola Vucevic enters the picture, and suddenly the discussion feels more layered. Vucevic is not a flashy name in the way some blockbuster stars are, but his skill set fits cleanly into the Warriors' style of play. He brings spacing, passing from the center position, and a scoring touch that demands defensive attention. The idea of adding a reliable big who can operate within motion offense while also relieving pressure on the perimeter is appealing, especially when the team has struggled to generate interior consistency. Of course, there are fair questions about overlap. Golden State already has bigs who provide shooting and spacing, and some fans wonder whether adding another similar profile truly moves the needle. The counter-argument is experience and reliability. Vucevic has been through playoff battles, understands defensive schemes, and does not need development minutes to contribute. In a season where urgency is growing, that matters more than upside alone. At the same time, another name continues to hover over everything like a shadow that refuses to fade. Michael Porter Jr. has been at the center of Warriors speculation for months, and for good reason. His shooting, size, and ability to score without dominating the ball check multiple boxes for what Golden State has lacked at times. When you look at the roster and imagine a wing who can punish defenses simply by existing off the ball, it is easy to see why fans gravitate toward this idea. There has been quiet confidence in certain circles that a deal involving Porter Jr. is more than just fantasy. Whether that confidence proves justified is another story, but the logic behind it remains strong. Golden State needs scoring punch, especially from players who can stretch the floor and create matchup problems without disrupting offensive flow. Porter Jr. represents that archetype almost perfectly, even with the risks that come attached. All of this circles back to Kuminga and what his departure would symbolize. This is not just about moving a player. It is about acknowledging that the relationship between Kuminga and the organization never fully aligned the way both sides hoped. Inconsistent minutes, changing expectations, and developmental uncertainty created a situation where frustration built quietly over time. Even when both sides spoke positively in public, the on-court reality told a more complicated story. From the coaching perspective, managing the situation has clearly not been easy. Balancing the desire to win now with the responsibility to develop young talent is one of the hardest challenges in the league, especially for a team built around veterans who expect to compete every night. When Kuminga was receiving limited opportunities, it was not necessarily a reflection of his effort or attitude, but rather a byproduct of lineup priorities and trust in experienced options. Still, it is impossible to ignore how difficult that must be for a young player. Kuminga showed flashes of what he could become, from powerful finishes to defensive versatility in games where he looked like a future cornerstone. Moments like his breakout performances last season hinted at a different trajectory, one where he gradually assumed a larger role as the next generation took shape. Instead, those flashes remained isolated rather than foundational. That is why a fresh start feels inevitable. Sometimes talent needs space to breathe, and sometimes organizations need clarity more than potential. For Golden State, the focus has shifted firmly toward maximizing the remaining prime years of their core. Every decision now is measured against that reality, whether fans are comfortable with it or not. The window may not be slammed shut yet, but it is no longer wide open either, and standing still is no longer an option. As trade conversations heat up, the emotional side of this cannot be ignored. Kuminga represents years of hope, patience, and belief in a bridge between eras. Letting go of that is difficult, but the league rarely rewards sentimentality, especially when championships are still within reach. What happens next will say a lot about how the Warriors view their identity moving forward, and how willing they are to make uncomfortable choices in pursuit of immediate success. When you zoom out and look at the broader picture, this entire situation feels less like a single transaction and more like a philosophical crossroads for Golden State. The organization has lived for years in a delicate balance between sustaining a dynasty and planning for what comes next. Kuminga was supposed to be a pillar of that transition, a player who could grow quietly behind established stars and eventually step into a larger role. Instead, reality moved faster than development, and the pressure to win never truly loosened its grip. What complicates everything is how the league itself views this moment. Teams around the NBA are not just evaluating Kuminga as an isolated talent, but as a player shaped by his environment. They see the limited minutes, the stretches without consistent roles, and they ask themselves whether those issues were circumstantial or revealing. That uncertainty impacts leverage, and leverage is everything when trade talks become serious. Golden State understands that, which is why patience and timing are so critical right now. At the same time, the Warriors are not operating from a position of desperation. The roster still has elite championship DNA, and there is belief internally that the team has begun to stabilize after a turbulent stretch. Veteran leadership has been vocal about accountability, defensive intensity has improved in spurts, and there is a sense that momentum is slowly building rather than fading. That context matters because it frames any trade not as a last resort, but as an intentional move to sharpen the roster. This is where the conversation about fit becomes louder than the conversation about potential. In a vacuum, Kuminga's upside is enticing. But in the Warriors system, fit has always been king. Players who understand spacing, movement, and decision-making tend to thrive, while those who need the ball or require simplified roles often struggle to find consistency. That does not mean Kuminga lacks basketball intelligence, but it does highlight how narrow the margin for error can be on a team with championship expectations. If Golden State does pivot toward a player like Michael Porter Jr., the message is clear. The organization is prioritizing immediate offensive impact and lineup clarity. Porter Jr. does not need to be developed into a scorer. He already is one. His shooting gravity alone changes defensive schemes, opening lanes and creating cleaner looks for everyone else on the floor. For a team that has occasionally looked cramped offensively, that kind of presence is hard to ignore. Of course, no move like that comes without risk. Injuries, contract considerations, and long-term flexibility all factor into the equation. The front office has to weigh not only what helps now, but what limits future options. Giving up draft capital in young players is not something this organization does lightly, especially after years of preaching sustainability. But there comes a point where protecting the future too aggressively can undermine the present, and that tension is front and center right now. Meanwhile, the possibility of a deal involving Chicago adds another layer of intrigue. Vucevic represents a different kind of solution, one rooted in balance rather than fireworks. His ability to facilitate from the post, stretch the floor, and provide a steady interior presence could stabilize rotations that have felt uneven. It is not a move that screams transformation, but it is one that could quietly address multiple needs at once, especially in playoff settings where execution matters more than highlight plays. The coaching staff's perspective cannot be overlooked either. Lineup consistency, trust, and predictability are invaluable during the second half of the season. Constantly managing young players who are still learning situational basketball can be taxing when every game feels consequential. A veteran addition simplifies decisions and reduces volatility, even if it sacrifices some long-term upside. That trade-off becomes easier to justify when the championship window is still visible. Emotionally, this stretch has been heavy for everyone involved. Fans have invested years into imagining Kuminga as part of the next era, and players have spoken openly about the difficulty of navigating uncertain roles. When a young talent feels stuck between expectation and opportunity, frustration is inevitable. That frustration does not always manifest loudly, but it lingers beneath the surface, influencing confidence and rhythm on the floor. From Kuminga's perspective, a new environment could be exactly what he needs. Somewhere that offers consistent minutes, defined responsibilities, and patience for growth. History is full of examples where talented players flourished only after leaving the teams that drafted them. That does not mean Golden State failed him, but it does suggest that timing and context matter just as much as ability. As the deadline approaches, every game, every lineup decision, and every rotation tweak feels magnified. The front office is watching closely, not just at box scores, but at body language, chemistry, and responsiveness to coaching. These subtle indicators often influence decisions as much as raw statistics. When an organization reaches this stage, the choice is rarely about one player alone, but about the direction of the entire group. What makes this moment especially compelling is that there is no obvious right answer. Holding on to Kuminga preserves potential, but prolongs uncertainty. Trading him clarifies roles, but closes a chapter that once felt full of promise. Either path carries consequence, and that is why the next few days feel so important. The Warriors are not just adjusting their roster. They're defining what matters most in this phase of their journey. As conversations continue behind closed doors, the sense of inevitability grows stronger. Something is going to give. Whether it happens quickly or unfolds gradually, the status quo no longer feels sustainable. The league moves fast, and teams that hesitate often get left behind. Golden State knows this, and the decisions made in this window will echo far beyond this season, shaping not only the roster, but the identity of the franchise moving forward. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. In a move that could shake the foundations of the NBA, whispers are swirling that Giannis Antetokounmpo may be on the verge of making one of the most shocking decisions in recent basketball history. Sources close to the superstar hint that he has reportedly given a final answer regarding his next chapter, and the Golden State Warriors have reportedly stepped into the fray with a jaw-dropping offer. The deal, described by insiders as potentially the largest in league history, has already set social media ablaze, with fans and analysts debating the implications of such a blockbuster. Golden State, fresh off years of championship contention, is said to be prepared to restructure their roster in a bid to accommodate Giannis's massive contract demands, signaling a commitment that could redefine the power dynamics in the Western Conference. Rumors suggest that the Warriors are not only offering astronomical financial terms, but are also presenting Giannis with a clear path to championship contention alongside a roster of seasoned stars. While nothing is confirmed, the speculation alone has ignited fervent discussion across sports networks, podcasts, and forums. Industry insiders caution that while Giannis's final answer might lean toward the Bay Area, negotiations of this magnitude are notoriously fluid. Some suggest he could leverage the Warriors' offer to extract better terms from other potential suitors, including teams in the Eastern Conference looking to make a splash. Meanwhile, Warriors fans are reportedly buzzing with excitement at the prospect of adding one of the league's most dominant forces to their already potent lineup, imagining a team that could rival any dynasty in recent memory. The potential move has analysts pondering not just the immediate on-court impact, but also the ripple effects across the league. Could this trigger a new wave of super team formations? Would it shift the balance of power across conferences? Even as the speculation mounts, the basketball world remains on edge, with every insider leak and cryptic social media post dissected for clues. If Giannis does indeed take the leap to Golden State, it wouldn't just be a signing. It would be a seismic event, the kind of headline that reverberates through arenas, living rooms, and sports history books for years to come. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.